Good morning, 10th class. Yesterday we did the first part of the chapter 2 stories about flying. Now, today we will be doing the second part, Black Aeroplane. After completing both the parts, on Monday we shall be doing the written work or the assignments of both the parts together. Okay, so let us do the chapter right now. The second part, Black Aeroplane. Here, this chapter, the author Frederick Forsyth. You need to remember the name of the narrator over here. Name of the narrator being Frederick Forsyth. Okay. Now, which incident made him realize that there are certain things in life which come up to us in a very mysterious way? How these things influence us, and what exactly do these incidents convey us when things are happening around us mysteriously. We are helped by someone, but we don't know who exactly came and helped us out. Okay, sometimes it may be human being, and sometimes it may be some supernatural forces which we are unable to comprehend with our basic inherent feelings even. Okay, let us begin with the chapter Black Aeroplane. The moon was coming up in the east behind me. Me refers to Frederick Forsythia. And stars were shining in the clear sky above me. Okay, so everything was pleasant for him. Everything was going good up till now. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was a cloudless sky. The sky was clear. I was happy to be alone, high up above the sleeping countryside. He says sleeping countryside because it was 1 o'clock at night. So he was awake because he was in his aeroplane. But he talks about the people of the country who were fast asleep. So I was happy to be alone, high up above the sleeping countryside. I was flying my old Dakota airplane over France back to England. Okay, underline this. France back to England. So he was going to England over France. I was dreaming of my holiday and looking forward to being with my family. He was desperate. He wanted to be spending time with his family. I looked at my watch. It was 1:30 in the morning. He says 1:30 time, midnight time as morning over here. I should call Paris control soon, I thought. While he was in his aeroplane, he thought of giving a call to the control room to guide him for the further directions. As I looked down past the nose of the aeroplane, I saw the lights of a big city in front of me. He could see, he was approaching, and a big city was about to be there in front of him now. I switched on the radio and said, Paris Control, Dakota, DS 088 here. Can you hear me? He is trying to contact the control room people. I'm on my way to England. Over. And with this, he finishes with his conversation, expecting them to revert back to whatever he had asked. The voice from the radio answered me immediately. DS088, I can hear you. You ought to turn 12 degrees west now. DS088, over. So now he expected the control room people to guide him, and now they have told him that he need to turn 12 degrees to the west. Okay. I checked the map and the compass, switched over to my second and last fuel tank, and I turned the Dakota 12 degrees west towards England. So according to the direction provided to him, he followed it and he switched over to his last fuel tank. I'll be in time for breakfast, I thought. A good, big English breakfast. Everything was going well. It was an easy flight. Paris was about 150 kilometers behind me when I saw the clouds. It means he was in between England and France. Paris, he had left 150 kilometers behind him. And it was then he saw clouds. And they were not simple clouds, they were storm clouds. They were huge. They looked like black mountains standing in front of me across the sky. I knew I could not fly up and over them. He could make out, seeing the size of those storm clouds, those black clouds, that he neither can fly nor he could be over them. Next thing, I did not have enough fuel to fly around them to the north or south. As we read just now, see this line, he had switched over to his second and last fuel tank. So he knew very well that there was not enough fuel in his tank that he could take a different direction moving towards the north or the south. He then thought, I ought to go back to Paris. Paris, which here he himself states was 150 kilometers behind them. But I wanted to get home. I wanted that breakfast. He wanted to spend time with his family. And he decided to take the risk. Underline this line, I'll take the risk. I thought, and flew that old Dakota straight into the storm instead of deciding to go back, instead of taking the plane either to the south, either to the or to the north. What he thought of was getting into the storm, because what predominated his mind at that moment was spending time with his family. Inside the clouds, everything was suddenly black. It was impossible to see anything outside the aeroplane. The old aeroplane jumped and twisted in the air because they were storm clouds. I looked at the compass. I couldn't believe. What couldn't he believe? He couldn't believe what had happened in front of him. I couldn't believe my eyes. The compass was turning round and round and round. That basically says that it was dead. It was no longer in a working condition. It would not work, means it couldn't support him and tell in the direction now. The other instruments were suddenly dead too. I tried the radio so that he could once again contact the control room. He is now loudly calling out for Paris control. Paris control, can you hear me? There was no answer. The radio was dead too. So neither the compass is working nor the radio. I had no radio, no compass, and I could not see where I was. I was completely lost in the storm. Then in the black clouds quite near me, I saw another aeroplane. At that moment when he was stuck in a storm wherein his aeroplane was not at all supporting him. Neither the direction nor the direction of which is to be guided by the compass, nor the radio wherein the Paris control people could guide him further. It had, now when he saw another aeroplane, he found that aeroplane had no lights on its wings, but I could see it flying next to me through the storm. I could see the pilot's face and it was turned towards me. He could see someone in that aeroplane and that person was looking towards him. I was very glad to see another person. He lifted one hand and waved So that pilot of the another aeroplane gestured him something, waved him. So basically to convey him something. Follow me, he was saying, follow me. He knows that I am lost, I thought. So when after receiving those gestures, Frederick feels as if the pilot of that aeroplane is trying to help him. He turned his aeroplane slowly to the north in front of my Dakota so that it would be easier for me to follow him. I was very happy to go behind the strange aeroplane like an obedient child does. Whichsoever way the elders would guide him, the obedient one would follow. So the same way the pilot in that another aeroplane waved him, gestured him, guided him, moved his plane towards the north, and Frederick also followed him like an obedient child does. After half an hour, the strange black aeroplane was still there in front of me in the clouds. Now, there was only enough fuel in the old Dakota's last tank to fly for 5 or 10 minutes more. Frederick knew very well. He could make out that the fuel tank had only that much fuel that just 5 or 10 minutes more he could fly. I was starting to feel frightened again. But then he started to go down and I followed him through the storm. Suddenly, I came out of the clouds and I saw two long straight lines of lights in front of me. So he had finally reached the airport and he could see the runway now. It was a runway, an airport. I was safe. I turned to look for my friend who was in the black aeroplane who had guided him, but the sky was completely empty. There was nothing there. The black aeroplane had disappeared. I could not see it anywhere. He looked around because it was that black aeroplane only who had guided him. Black aeroplane only who had made him move to a different direction, who had brought him out of the storm. He is looking around, but he couldn't see neither the plane nor that pilot. I landed, and I was not sorry to walk away from the old Dakota near the control tower because he wanted to go there. He was not feeling sorry. He wanted to be with his family, but right now what thing felt more important to him was that he should go and thank that person who had brought him out of that storm. I went and asked a woman in the control center where I was and who the other pilot was. Why? Because he wanted to convey a thank you to that other pilot. She looked at me very strangely and then laughed. Another aeroplane? Up there in this storm? No other aeroplanes are flying tonight. Yours was the only one I could see on the radar. Okay, so the woman who was there in the control room, she had all the control panels in front of her, but that lady says that she did not see any other aeroplane because according to her the weather was not at all favorable for the flights or the aeroplanes to undertake any such journey. So according to that lady, Frederick Forsyth's Dakota was the only thing which was visible on the radar that was flying that night. So who helped me to arrive there safely without a compass, without a radio, or without any more fuel in my tanks? Who was the pilot of the strange black aeroplane, flying in the storm without lights? So the last paragraph states that there was a mystery somewhere, because he himself is getting confused because the lady completely denied of the presence of any other aeroplane other than his old Dakota. So he says he himself is questioning, who helped me to arrive without a compass or a radio? Because he knew very well in his aeroplane, both the things were not working, neither the compass nor the radio. Third thing, there was no more fuel in his tanks. Okay. Who was the pilot on the strange black aeroplane? Who was flying in the storm, guiding him, waving him, expecting him to follow? And his aeroplane, that black aeroplane, was without any lights. He himself doesn't know. Either it may be his hallucination, or it may be some messenger of God who had come to help him. He himself doesn't know. What he knows is that he could recall the incident which had taken place with him, and he narrates us in the form of this extract. Okay, children? So, two stories about flying. First, about the seagull. Seagull who was taught by his parents how to take the risk in life in order to learn a skill. And here the story of Frederick Forsyth being guided by a pilot in the black aeroplane. And he himself is unaware of the person, the benevolent one who had helped him, the person who had taken him out of that storm. Okay, children? So, both the parts are completed. Now, in the next class, we shall be doing our question answers of the chapter. And after completing the question answers of both the parts, we'll switch over to the writing section. Writing section which has some letters. First, we'll start with the letters which are there in the formal letters which are there in your syllabus. And we shall begin with the writing section things now. Okay, children? Goodbye. Take care of yourself. And do not keep any of your work pending. Fine? See, be regular with whatever you are doing, so that later you are not at all in any kind of problem that your work has been piled up for you. Okay, children? Goodbye.